Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I was talking a little bit just now with the volume off. Now I turn the volume on as we are headed towards the opening bell. In the past, I have tried to stream during the first hour of the trading day. However, uh, it's been difficult for me because multitasking, doing so much during the first hour of the day. I tried to, call out trades and be the color commentator for the markets and everything like that during the day, especially that first hour, and then watch the market and make trades and everything. It's just, for me, in the past, it's been overwhelming. Other traders have come to the same conclusion, like Linda Raschke, who is a full-time professional day and swing trader that I admire greatly. Now, she has done uh, trading rooms in the past, but what happens is that it always kind of dies off. And she stops doing it. Now there is a trading room that her husband and her protege are doing. And sometimes she comes on and does presentations and stuff, and she posts on X a lot. But she's not doing any trading chat rooms or anything like that right now. So as we head towards the opening bell, we have a big day so far. The S&Ps are up about 79, 78 handles. The Nasdaq's up 575 handles. And all this is on the news of the war possibly coming to an end. I don't know the details. It's hard to keep up. But basically a ceasefire for 60 days, and Trump signed a deal over in Europe. So the markets are up on that. Also, the memory stocks are going to be, and the chip stocks are going to be doing very, very well as we have the opening bell, because Intel is running up on news that Apple is going to be raising prices for their phones, so that benefits stocks like Intel as they make the chips for the iPhone. But other memory and chip stocks are going to do as great as well, because the realization that this whole issue that we have, this bottleneck issue of chips and silicon and wafers and everything, is such a big deal now, because now it's getting out to the public, because it's not just affecting corporations anymore. It's affecting the consumer. If Apple has to raise prices of iPhones, it's affecting the consumer. So it really shows how big this problem is, and chip stocks are all doing fantastic in the pre-market. So I will be looking for trades in the chip stocks this morning. And that is about it for today. Kevin Warsh had the Fed, his first Fed meeting yesterday. Market sold off, but then have bounced back today on the news of the ceasefire in Iran and the chip news from Intel and Apple and so forth. So, with all that said, we've got about three, close to now 2 minutes till the opening bell, and I will chime in when I see something that catches my eye. SpaceX is down by $5 in the opening bell. So I sold my SpaceX yesterday, and I am not interested at all right now in getting back into SpaceX, especially now that it's under 190 and just not acting too well. I just don't like it right now. I am going to roll up some long calls that I have in Micron. Right now, I am long the June 26th 1075 strike calls. I am going to sell those 1075 strike calls and buy the 1110 calls in Micron. So putting that trade in right now. So this roll is for a credit for me, but basically I'm locking in my profits, and I am going to roll those deep in the money calls to be at the money calls, collect my credit, lock in my profit, and still stay long Micron. So and I'm looking at Marvell right now. Marvell is moving fast, trying to get filled with this Micron trade. And then I'm gonna buy some calls in Marvell. I cannot get filled. Now that Micron is such a high price stock, it's sometimes very difficult to get a fill because the stock is moving around so much, and the spreads between the bid and the ask are so large, it's hard to get a fill. And I may have to roll back down those Micron calls. I'm going to do the same thing to Marvell here. Rolling up these calls. It's a very fast market because the Micron just backed off, and so the calls I just rolled in Micron are now out of the money by about 2 strikes. So it's pretty crazy. I'm gonna roll up these these Marvell calls, and I will be buying the 307.50 June 26th calls in Marvell. So, and it's a roll from the deep in the money calls. So I'm now long the 307.50 calls in Marvell for June 26th expiration. Let's see, so I bought Marvell calls, bought Micron calls so far today, and they are both backing off as I speak. Right when I buy these calls, the stocks are now backing off from their prices that they were at. And SpaceX is now down $10. Ooh, down to 181. Really giving up the ghost here. I wonder what the options action on SpaceX looks like. Let's take a look at the trade tab here. Let's see here. Yeah, 46,000 calls traded in SpaceX to 49,000 puts. And a lot of puts are being bought. The majority of puts are being bought, 33% of puts. And a lot of calls are being sold here, traded at the bid. So that is very bearish tape action in the options in SpaceX. So let's see if there's anything else that's interest to me. Those Micron calls that I bought, the 1110 calls are slightly out of the money now, as Micron's at 1,096. The stock backed off right as I rolled the options, so I may have to actually, what I may do is something a little crazy, is just roll back these options. Meaning, I'm gonna roll them to a deeper strike, just because. I'm gonna roll them to the 1100. I just don't want them that far out of the money at this point. Even though there's a call skew, I just don't want them that far out of the money. And this is going to cost me some money. I like having calls at the money or slightly in the money. So it's a little bit of an adjustment trade right at 1100. So now on the 1100 calls in Micron. So I'm long the 1100 calls. I'm on the 307 calls in Marvell, both at the June 26th expiration. So those are the new trades for today. Another stock that's interested me that also backed off is Bloom Energy. It spiked up above $305 a share. So I know everybody's talking about SpaceX and they love SpaceX, but I gotta tell you, there's a lot of other stocks that are just moving around. Palantir is getting sold off today by a lot, and Robinhood had a huge day yesterday. Is off a little bit today, but not that much. But Palantir is down to $127.98 a share, so it's below $128 a share. I am not liking that action. So I have Palantir shares, but with the stock down to 127. I may actually end up selling some of these shares at Palantir at a certain point. And I think what's happening is that, as AI develops, AI software companies are not, they don't have as much competitive advantage as they used to. I still have big profits in this stock. I I don't like the way it's acting. And it has continued to act very, very poorly. I am going to be buying some Bloom Energy calls now. I am right now long the 290 Bloom Energy calls, the 290 June 26, 2026 calls. I'm going to sell those 290 calls in Bloom Energy, those deep in the money calls, and be buying. I'm going to buy the 302.50 calls in Bloom Energy. Yeah, so I'm going to buy the 302.50 calls that expire on June 26th right now. So I like the action in Bloom today, the way it's spiking. It pulled back a little bit, but it's coming back. I'm still having a very difficult time getting filled in this Bloom Energy call. And I'm filled. I bought the June 26th expiration 302.50 calls. So I am now long Bloom Energy calls. So I bought Marvell calls today. I've bought Bloom Energy calls today and Micron calls today. Palantir is bouncing back a little bit, but still down in the day, down $2.60, but it is bouncing back a bit. One stock that sticks out to me, Broadcom is up about 3.5%. That's some good action. As I said, I bought Micron calls. It's up. You can see up 5.8%. Western Digital, another big update in Western Digital, up 10.2%. Let's check out Intel. Let's check out Intel. Yeah, let's take a look at Intel. That's a big move, up 9.3%. So what's interesting about Intel is it's not the only chip stock that's up 9%. There are other names that are up more than 9%. Western Digital is one of those names. So Western Digital is actually up more than Intel. That's interesting to point out. Let's see what we have. Dycom is down a little bit today. That's a stock I like to look at. And then, like I said, I bought some calls in Bloom Energy. It's up 4.6% today. So a lot of big moves out there, everyone. And SpaceX now down over $11. It's getting killed right now, down to 181 a share. Let's take a look at SanDisk and Marvell. SanDisk up 7, close to 8%. Another name. This is another chip stock that I don't own. That's going straight up like a rocket. You just can't own them all in this type of market, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So SanDisk making a rip higher, along with the other chip stocks. Palantir bounced a little bit, but now it's making new lows on the day, now below 127. Ooh. Another stock that's moving nicely is Astera Labs, up 4.4%. Not up as much as the other chips AI stocks, but it's still up decently. And Nvidia is up a good amount today, but I'd like to see it up more. It's up 1.69%, almost up 1.7%, but it's just not. I'd like to see it up over 2%. With everything else up 3%, 4%, 5%, 9%, 10%. In the case of Western Digital, now up 11%. I'd like to see Nvidia up like over 2%. So I want to see Nvidia get closer to $210 a share, close to that pivot level of about 112 a share. and I want to go on record. Everybody's talking about how we're going to raise interest rates now. It was a general narrative that was being talked about how, okay, we're going to have to raise interest rates. We're going to have to raise interest rates later this year. And now, after Kevin Warsh had his first Fed chair meeting, his first Fed meeting as Fed chair, it's pretty evident now across the narrative of Wall Street that they're going to raise interest rates. I want to go on record to say I actually think maybe not by the end of this year, but sometime early next year, I actually think that we will have an interest rate cut before an interest rate hike. I know it sounds crazy to the current Wall Street narrative and consensus right now. I really do think we will end up cutting rates before we actually hike rates, but we'll see. I've been wrong about many things in the past. This is a contrarian, off the wall prediction, but I want to say it on camera and mark it down that it is a contrarian, off the wall prediction. But I think we're going to cut rates before we hike rates. And if anybody out there is in the consensus of Wall Street and the Wall Street establishment, they're going to think I'm nuts, I'm crazy, but we'll see. We'll see. I've been wrong about many things in the past. Okay, I predicted a possible gamma squeeze in SpaceX. That is not happening right now. It's not happening, not even close. When a stock is dropping like it is, down over 5%, that's not a gamma squeeze to the upside. So let's see what else is going on. Wow, Vertiv up 5.5%. Ooh. I may have to buy some calls in this stock. It just had a little bit of a dip, but it's moving up. I may have to buy some calls. Thinking. I'm going to buy some Vertiv calls as well. Date. Okay, I got filled on the Vertiv calls. 3:35 strike, June 26th expiration. Buying some Vertiv calls. So I just bought the Vertiv calls. Bought the bought the 335 calls for the June 26th expiration. Paid $13.65 for those calls. So more calls I'm buying today. And as I speak, SpaceX is making new lows at $178 a share. So it is really getting smashed today, down over 7% on the day. Palantir is now getting smashed even more, down close to 4% on the day at 125. Ooh. So there's lots of rotations around, lots of stocks getting smashed, lots of stocks getting bid up. It's pretty interesting. So I was showing Palantir, right at those lows of the day and below these previous lows of other trading sessions. It's really getting smashed here at $125 a share. And then we'll take a look back at SpaceX, down by about $12.50, down 6.5%. It's kind of bouncing here a little bit. It's kind of bouncing here a little bit, holding that low. It got, it traded below the Bollinger Band. The Bollinger Band's expanded down, and it's now back into this Bollinger Band. So it's possibly where it's forming some type of kind of support here, forming a low pivot here down at the 176 level. But it's got to hold 176. But so far, this trading action today, SpaceX and Palantir, is a bona fide trend down day. And we can take a look at the options activity in SpaceX. And we can see here we got 189,000 calls traded, 181,000 puts traded. The put to call ratio is 0.95, so it's very close to 1-to-1. Basically, very close to an equal number of calls and puts traded. And you can see just 31% puts traded at the ask, 32% calls traded at the bid. Those are calls being sold and puts being bought. So the options activity is very bearish in SpaceX. It confirms the price action. So don't look to trade SpaceX from the long side today. Even though it's bouncing here and it's gotten back above 179, I still be very, very cautious on a day like today, because the options action confirms the tape action. We're bouncing off that lower Bollinger Band after going into it, but we're still in a bona fide trend down day in SpaceX. I'm going to go back to Palantir. Come on, Palantir. Gosh, man, you are really being a bitch. I mean, this is just brutal. I mean, look at that downtrend action, just getting smashed. Let's take a look at the options action in Palantir. Look at that, 118,000 calls to 78,000 puts, but the put to call ratio is 0.66. So most of the trading is in between the market, so you can't really read into the options on Palantir. But there's a lot of calls being sold. Okay, there's a good amount of calls being sold, and when we look at the puts, a lot of puts being bought. So, the option action confirms the tape action in Palantir as well. So, brutal, just brutal. I have owned Palantir shares for a long, long, long time, and I have a very decent gain on the stock, but I am really considering selling some and putting that money into another stock. To be honest, I don't know exactly what stock to put that money into. That's a big thing. So far I am kind of just letting it play out. This is interesting. SpaceX selling off, but so is Rocket Labs. Rocket Labs has had a big down move recently. So it's not just SpaceX, it's Rocket Labs as well, another rocket space technology company. And Tesla's down too. Getting smashed. It was up over $400 a share. Now it's down, to $390. So it's just interesting. You look at the rotations today. Robinhood is now back into the green. It was down by a small amount, but now it's in the green. So that's good to see. After yesterday's big move, you kind of want to see it also have another day after that. I don't expect it to have another huge day like yesterday, but to be up after yesterday's big up move, it's a good sign. even if it's up of just a couple cents, it's pretty much unchanged on the day. It's consolidating its gains from yesterday. So that's a very good sign. And I have shares in Robinhood, so. Let's take a look at Intel. Up 7.8% today. Nice move. I'm going to see if I can get Palantir bouncing a little bit off its lows, back inside the 5-minute Bollinger Band, but still weak on the day. To show like a lot of strength, a lot of great strengths, what you need is you need this stock to completely reverse and go up above this 20-day, get reclaim the 130 level. But I don't know if that's going to happen. It looks like a bona fide trend day on Palantir chart. Um, you're getting a nice little crossover on the 310 oscillator. So, um, and you do have a divergence on the fast line. So, if you want to take a shot, as a contrarian reversal trade, you can do that. But keep in context, this is a bona fide trend down day in Palantir. Even with the general market, as we look at the NASDAQ, is in a bona fide trend up day. As we wait for the chart to pull up, oh my gosh. We have a nice trend up day in the NASDAQ. As you see here, Palantir is getting smashed to the downside. But it is bouncing here, so we'll see if this can stick. But I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence. I could easily see another sell off, another round of selling later in the afternoon session. So we'll see. Yeah, so you have a crossover in the oscillator here on the 5-minute chart. When I say 5-minute chart, this is a 5-minute bar. Each bar is 5 minutes, and you have a crossover buy signal. I would look for it to trade to this 20-day, and I would not look to hold it past that. And you could even go as far as say, okay, it's in a downtrend. You have these bounces here. You may look to flip it for a scalp at 128, but you have a crossover buy here at Palantir, so you do have a short-term buy here for a short-term trade. I would do this trade in stock, by the way. like the way NVIDIA keeps moving up. It looks interesting here. I was saying earlier that it needed to move up, and now it is. So that's good to see. Um, Fast line is now coming down now, so it's basically showing that it may be running out of gas to the upside, but it is having a good day to the upside, along with the many other stocks in the chip sector. I like Corning here for a buy. Right here, this chart looks really pretty, bouncing off of the lower Bollinger Band. Crossover in the oscillator, crossover in this oscillator, right below the 20-day. I think that's a good spot to buy the stock. I already own the stock, and so I'm gonna sell some calls in the stock. But I'm gonna sell some calls, but I'm doing that because it's bouncing and I already own the stock. But if you don't own the stock, I think it's a good buy at right here at $184 a share. And actually, I'm thinking out loud, I actually may sell some Palantir and buy some Corning here. I'm not gonna do anything today, but I'm gonna think about this over the weekend. But I do like, this is a good candidate to buy some shares in. I like it right here. So I may buy some Corning after I sell some Palantir. Interesting. As you can see, chip stocks continue to go higher. I'll pull up the SMH so you can see it very clearly. Chip stocks, and I say, this is across the board. NVIDIA, Micron, Western Digital, Intel, SanDisk, Seagate, Marvell. They continue to just keep inching up higher and higher today, and you can see it very, very, very clearly looking at the SMH chart today. So I don't get why so many people are fighting this move. I would just, if you don't want to pick individual stocks, just buy something like the SMH, or another interesting name that you can buy is an ETF called DRAM. Okay, look at that. Just buy these names and don't fight it. Like, don't fight this. Okay, it's very clear today, hearing the news out of Apple and Intel, that there are big bottlenecks in this chip space as we continue to develop AI, and it's not going to be solved anytime soon in the foreseeable future. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And in my opinion, that shows that this is not a bubble. I'm going to be very vocal about this. So sometime in the future, I look back on this, I'll see if I'm right or wrong, but the current dynamic of the AI build out and the amount of high demand that's increasing more and more and more, and the lack of supply across the board in silicon and wafers and so on and so forth, causing these bottlenecks and shortages. This is not a bubble. And if anything, the bear case is there's so much bottlenecks that these companies are not going to be able to sell as much as they would have been able to sell. So, you can see it very clear in these types of names like DRAM or SMH. So, and maybe I just need to sell a software stock like Palantir and buy more chip stocks and be more focused and concentrated in the semiconductor area. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but it certainly is against the norms of diversification. But I've never made money being diversified. I'll say that straight out. In my experience, concentration and putting lots of money in a good idea is how you make a lot of money. So as I think out this idea of me selling some Palantir shares, I say the best new stock that has come up on my scans has been Marvell. But that just means I'm more concentrated and more focused in the chip sector. So I don't know. If this is a bubble, it's going to hurt me bad. Looking at Amazon right now. I own this stock. It's had a nice pullback. I need to sell some covered calls in this stock. I've owned this stock for a long time, many years. I need to sell some calls in this stock, but in this down move like we're having, I need more of an up move closer to the 20-day, closer to this swing high here. Right around the 257 level, the 255 level before I sell some calls in my Amazon. So I'm gonna keep waiting. But it needs to make a rally towards this 20-day here, towards this 253 level. It's just been had a pullback recently. Going back to showing the SMH, the semiconductor ETF, just to show how strong these chip stocks are. And I'm in the camp that you don't fight it, you just go with the trend. And it keeps going up, making new highs above the previous high from Monday in SMH. And take a look at this power trend here and the way it's making new highs up at the upper Bollinger Band. I think it's good. Now, on the longer picture, I'm going to look at another chart template here. Now, what is interesting about the semiconductor chart is that the slow line is moving down in the SMH as it makes new highs, and the fast line is below previous highs as the stock makes new highs. So that is one thing to keep in mind in a stock or in not just a stock, but a sector like the semiconductors, is that it isn't a very strong power trend extended run to the upside. Momentum is waning, and this type of momentum following the slow line and lower highs in the fast line are showing that momentum is waning. And you had to just keep that in mind, that yes, you are buying at all-time highs and you're trading the trend. Keep in the back of your mind that this is an extended run, and this sector, this industry, all these chip stocks are way overdue for corrections. Now, most chip stocks did have a little bit of a correction in early June, but for the most part, they all sold off to the 20-day. A lot of stocks didn't even make it to the 20-day, and then they were bought, and now they're at all-time highs. So go figure. This is just the perfect example of how much the market shows you don't know. And I was looking for the semiconductor, mini chip stocks, semiconductors to do like some back and forth sideways action, but they all pulled back to their 20-day. And we can look at a couple of them right now. Micron, see it pulled back to its 20-day. Western Digital pulled back to its 20-day, kind of undercut it. Seagate pulled back to its 20-day. Let's take a look at Intel. It broke its 20-day very nicely and actually went to the lower Bollinger Band, but now it's right back to new all-time highs. And now you see the slow lines crossing above the zero line, and you have this big pop in the fast line, making a higher high from the last high in the fast line. So all that's very good. It's still below this high in the fast line, so it's not. It's the moment. It shows that it's progressing in its up move, but it got above this high in the fast line, which is a good sign. Let's see here. Marvell, same story. Didn't even make it to its 20-day moving average. That shows the strength in this stock. And you see the slow line continues to trend up, but the fast line is way below the previous pop from before, which shows that it's in its next stage in its up move. So for me, when a stock is trending up, when you have a divergence in the slow line, that's very, very important. Okay, if you have a divergence in the fast line to the upside, it's not as important. It just shows that the up move is progressing and momentum is waning. So we go full circle and go back to the semiconductor. As you can see, you have divergences here in the slow line, and that shows that the SMH, the semiconductor ETF, is due for some type of more corrective action down the road. So you can be long, you can be bullish, don't fight this, but keep in mind that it is very extended and momentum is decreasing as it continues to go up. And to ignore that would be very, to ignore that where this far extended and momentum is falling down would be, I think, immature. It would be, just wouldn't be good. It's not a good thing to do. You have to be, even when you're in a power trend and you're running with the train higher, you have to keep in mind that it is extended, and you need to know that you could be played with fire. I just wonder, like, there's so many people out there that have missed this entire up move, and now they're going in now for the first time. It could be dangerous. It could be dangerous. So I think, like, at this point, the way it's at all-time highs, I think it's best to wait for some type of pullback to the 20-day, especially with these divergences in the slow line playing out in the semiconductor ETF. As I discussed earlier this morning, I bought calls in Micron, and I'm showing Micron here. The stock has just been ripping higher and higher and higher. Let's take a look at, as you can see, it continues to go up higher and higher and higher, but there the slow line is a little bit lower than the previous high, so that is starting to form a divergence in the slow line in Micron for the first time in a long time. You see how this entire move up, we really haven't had, except for this time, right, this area right here, we didn't have any divergences, but now we're starting to get divergences in the slow line to the upside, sell divergences in the slow line. Yeah, it's good that you get a crossover in the fast line, but as you can see, the fast line is well below the previous fast line high. So that with a merging divergence in Micron shows that this stock is super extended and overdue for some type of more broad-based correction. So yes, it's going higher. Yes, you can be long, especially if you have short-term trades, but you have to understand momentum is waning and a correction can be soon on the horizon for a stock like Micron. Super extended, okay? Go back and take a look at NVIDIA. Still acting pretty well on the day. Just below $210 a share, but acting really well right now. I like it. Again, I think that what we could see, thinking out loud, its money rotate out of the memory stocks like Micron and Western Digital and stuff and move into a stock like NVIDIA. So we take a look at a bigger picture chart of NVIDIA. As you can see, it's right there, holding that 50-day, and you can see how it's traded down to the lower Bollinger Bands, and you see how the slow line has come all the way down, and it's starting to turn up, and now NVIDIA is right below getting close to the 20-day after bouncing off of the lower Bollinger Band. I think, you know, as it's close to this pivot price here of around $211 a share, I think it's getting very, very, very close to a perfect buy point right here at the 210 to a 211 level on NVIDIA. I like it here. And I like how on the weekly, the slow line is turned up and continuing to trend higher. And it's poised for some type of flip over on the fast line to start moving higher. So, you know, everything jives very well with NVIDIA. For a buy here in NVIDIA, and I think it's very possible you could see rotation out of memory stocks and into other chip stocks like NVIDIA. So we'll see. And on the long term, I'm bullish on both, but in the short term, you can get this rotation out of one area of technology into another area of technology. But on a higher level, you know, the news about Apple raising iPhone prices because the bottleneck in semiconductors and silicon and wafers and so forth, you still have to keep everything in mind that we are in a new era of this AI build out, and you can't get too myopic about all this, you know. You have to keep in mind that yes, you have short-term trades that you can do, but also you have to have your longer-term positions that you hold and are long, in my opinion, to allow your account to outperform the market, in my opinion, and also compound. And that's the key. If you don't compound your account and you're just trading in and out, chopping up your account, and then you get in a situation where you have to withdraw money to pay taxes and to pay your nut, then you get in trouble as far as becoming a day trader. But overall, before I sign off here, this market's very strong, and I think that, you know, you can't fight this on a granular basis. Yes, you can be aware that certain stocks are extended, and if you don't want to participate in those names, that's fine. But on a bigger picture, everything looks really, really strong here. You know, you look at the S&P, we had a pullback, we went down to the lower Bollinger Band, and guess what? We're right back to the 20-day, and we're set up to make another run up towards the all-time highs, and even trade to the upper Bollinger Band again on the daily chart. And just everything is set. You have this slow line on the oscillator is now down into the negative territory. And guess what? It's ready to turn up and go back up to where it was, above the 100 level. I mean, that's set up right now. And the fact that we just had a crossover buy signal on the fast line, everything is set up for a move higher, and it's starting right now. And with the S&P just under that 20-day, after bouncing off of the lower Bollinger Band, I think we're right here, ready to make another move higher. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ. You know, we're right here. You know, in the olden days, charts didn't take this long to load before Charles Schwab took over Thinkorswim. I'm just gonna make that known. And Nasdaq crossing the 20-day, going up. It's a little bit ahead of the S&P, and I see us above 31,000 and testing, all-time highs in the upper Bollinger Band soon. The slow line's starting to turn up, and you got a buy signal in the fast line, a crossover buy, so everything looks pretty good here. And I also want to go on record saying that I think the next move in the Fed is not going to be a rate hike. It's actually going to be a rate cut. That is a contrarian, off-the-wall opinion that I have. It is not a consensus, but I think that the probabilities of that happening are actually pretty strong. If I was running a macro hedge fund, okay, and I had to focus on making macro bets and not be able to focus on individual stock picking like I do as a retail investor, I would place big bets on buying various treasury notes and treasury bills, betting that the bond market, the treasury market will rally as interest rates fall, as the market prices in Fed rate cuts sometime later this year and early next year. I think it's very possible right now, right here, that we're getting peak inflation data, and it will only change and go down over the next couple months. And we're getting some good news on the war front. So I think that things could only get better, and if things get better, then that changes everything. And the Fed doesn't have to worry as much about price stability, which gives it room to cut rates, and that's my thesis. And with that, everyone, I am going to sign off for the day. Have a wonderful long weekend, and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.